Hey everybody, Ginger on Wheels here again. Today I am honored to be able to give you a walk around of the 𝐣₀11X scooter. You can see behind me here. You might have heard of the 𝐒𝐜𝐴 or the 𝐒𝐜𝐴X or the 𝐒𝐜�10X if you're really crazy, but for extreme enthusiasts, they did make a 𝐣₀11X scooter. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. The specs are off the charts. It's got 1600 watt motors, 35 amp hour battery, top speed 50-ish miles an hour, range probably somewhere around 50 to 80 miles of real world range. So thanks to a company called Rev Rides in Vancouver, Washington, the only authorized reseller of this scooter in the US, I have the ability to give you a walk around of this scooter, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So let's check it out. Alright everybody, here it is. The fabled 𝐣₀11X. It does exist. So we'll start from the top and go down. How does that sound? For starters, the handlebar grips are massive. They're about 20-30% bigger than the Wolf's handlebar grips, which are great. But it has this cutout part for your palm to rest down on, and it really helps with the high-speed riding. It makes you feel way more comfortable and stable. So the throttle assembly that it comes with is the QS S4. It's not the Mini Motors I throttle display, but functions pretty much just the same. It has the P settings that you can use to adjust your max output and torque and acceleration and things like that, but it just doesn't have like a fancy LCD display. It's got this output meter here. You can't really see because the sun's shining in it, but this displays an output of the volts remaining in the battery. So this is like a really accurate output of your battery charge. It's got a key, which is nice. Lots of scooters don't have this key assembly. When you lock the scooter outside the store or whatever, you can take the key with you and no one can take your scooter. That should be obvious, right? So it does have hydraulic brakes. It's the Zoom brakes. These are the same ones that are on the Wolf, I think. The only difference being, if you follow the cable down to the bottom here, it has 160 millimeter rotors. So the Wolf has 145 millimeter rotors. This being 160, this is far superior, and you can feel it for sure. Even though it's the same caliper, actual rotor itself is bigger, and for some reason that makes a big difference. So the handlebars, the width on these bad boys is crazy. It's 28 inches wide, I think. I measured, it was 2 inches longer than the Wolf Warrior, 2 inches wider, and makes the riding feel so much more stable at high speed when you have these huge handlebars. One possible downside I can see on these bars though is that there's a big curve that goes across the whole bar, and the width of the bar is tapered. It could make it hard to mount things to this, like a cell phone holder or a mirror or something like that if you wanted to. So this handlebar assembly is massive. It instills a great amount of confidence. These handlebar stem tubes are huge. The cables come really nicely wound from the factory. This looks pretty watertight. I wouldn't say 100%, but definitely weatherproof. So it's worth noting that all the bolts on the scooter come Loctited from the factory, so you don't have to worry about doing that when you first get it. So coming down here, this latching mechanism is pretty unique. There's 4 main latches, 2 on each handlebar, and they latch like that. And when you unlatch them, you loosen these 2 nuts here. And once you loosen those 2 nuts and these 2 latches are open, this collar slides up and it reveals a break in the bars right here. So you do that on both sides and the handlebars will fold down. There's no latch on the back for the handlebars to attach to, but portability isn't really the scooter's strong suit anyways. To pick it up, you could grab this light bar right here, and you can also grab this fender back here. This thing is made of metal, which is great. Wolf Warrior has a plastic one that's covered by a metal bar, but on this scooter, the entire thing back here is metal. This is great footrest, and you can brace yourself against it at high speed. So if you hold the mode button on the display up here for 2 or 3 seconds, you get these 2 lights in the front. And this light bar is adjustable. If you wanted to move it up to here, you could. It just comes stock down here. It's got a nice little fender on here so that you're not going to splash the entire front end of the area. Coming and looking underneath here, you can see it's got a big spring in the front suspension. This is the swing arm suspension that you see on a lot of the Dualtron scooters. It does have 11-inch pneumatic tires on the front here. And this is the street tread that you can get. It comes out with an off-road tread or a street tread, and this is the street. This is really good, really stable at high speeds. I've topped this scooter out at 51 miles an hour on flat ground, and this does great. Slightly narrower than the Wolf's tire, but I think just because the scooter is heavier, it feels just as stable, if not more. So Nathan over at Rev Rides warned me that the bearing in here was really tight from the factory, and it made the steering hard to turn back and forth. And he sold that to me as sort of a disadvantage, but I found after riding it for a while that that is a huge advantage. It prevents all speed wobbles at high speed. It's sort of like a built-in steering dampener. So I don't know if that was intentional from the factory or what, but I really like it. So coming down to here, it's got a huge frame. This is a big metal frame. It does have 2 charging ports, just like the Wolf does. The battery takes about 14 hours to charge with 1 charger and 7 hours to charge with 2 chargers. Or you can be fancy and buy the quick chargers. These 4 lights in the back here are on at all times when the 2 headlights in the front are on, and then when you squeeze the brake lever, they flash. The rear suspension back here is really gnarly. It's fully adjustable. You can loosen this thing and it'll give you more travel on the suspension there. But there are also aftermarket replacement options that you can use, like hydraulic mountain bike shocks you can put in here that I've seen that are really nice. So it's cool to have a scooter with aftermarket options. So a lot of people see this scooter on video and they think, oh, it's a 010X, but just a little bigger and gnarlier. No, it's not. It's so much bigger, okay? It's like 30 or 40% bigger. My girlfriend's gonna hate me for this, but I'm gonna post a picture of her that I took standing on the scooter. If you weigh less than like 130 pounds, I would say don't buy this. You'll have a hard time handling it. This scooter is so big that Rev Rides won't even sell it to everyone that orders it. A lot of times people will get scooters this big and they don't realize how big they are, and they'll ship them right back to Rev Rides. So they do like a little screening phone call to make sure that you can handle a scooter this big. This is definitely in the class of super scooters. The acceleration on this thing will literally pull the skin back on your face. It's out of control. Like, you buy a fast scooter because you think you're an adrenaline junkie and you want the fastest one, and then you get this thing and you're like, oh my God, what did I buy? What did I buy? The throttle is just so sensitive. It's alarming on multiple levels. It tricks your brain into that state that it goes into on roller coasters where it thinks that this is just not supposed to be happening, and it goes into like a paranoia, terrifying mode, like a survival mode. You can do that every time you accelerate on this thing. That's a selling point to some people, but for a lot of people that's just terrifying. So keep that in mind. And I'm gonna use it right now to run an errand. As you can see, I have my stuff strewn about over here on the lawn. I have some packages I want to go put in the mailbox, so we're gonna go drive to the post office, okay? Sounds good. That way you can get sort of a real world taste of what it's like to ride the 011X. So on the way here, did you see how smooth the handlebars were and how smooth the suspension was? There's no speed wobbles. I wasn't unsure of the scooter at any time. If anything, I was just wishing it would go faster. It's so heavy and so stable, and the handlebars are so wide. It's definitely more stable at high speeds than the Wolf Warrior is. And I can see why a lot of other scooters would add steering dampeners. Like this scooter has one built in, but it really does help at high speeds. I really wish I could communicate to you through video how fast the acceleration is on this thing, but